Hello, and thank you for choosing to watch this video. Out of all the videos out there, I really appreciate you being here, and I am going to make today's video a sit-down video because I haven't done one yet. So yeah, welcome to my first sit-down video. If you don't know me, my name is Patience, and tomorrow is my birthday. So that means today is my last day being 21. So I thought it would be a really interesting idea to film a video about 21 lessons that I learned up to now, basically. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope that I'm able to teach you something or give you something that you can take away from this, because this video is more for other versions of me than it is for anything else. I mean, no one asked for this video, but yeah, I really love watching these videos on YouTube, so I thought to make my own. And yeah, I guess this is the last opportunity I have to make a video about being 21, or to make a video while being 21. These are lessons that I've kind of written down and accumulated since I figured I wanted to do this video, which was probably just before the beginning of the year. And yeah, I finally have the 21 lessons that I feel will really help me and will really help someone in navigating their way through life, because it's not like life comes with a user manual where you can kind of go to it and refer to this circumstance or anything like that. So these are kind of rules that are able to apply to almost any scenario, or rather not to any scenario, but to scenarios where if you're able to discern that this kind of thing could apply here, I don't know, hopefully I can be an inner voice that is very much needed to you. So let's get started. Okay, so first and foremost, I just want to point out that I want you to go and grab a cup of tea. Like a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, whatever beverage you want to be sipping on, because I'm gonna go grab one too. So please go and grab one so that I'm not drinking alone. I'll wait for you, don't worry, I'll wait for you. I mean, you can pause, but I'll wait. I hope you've gotten your beverage and you're all cozy. I've even lit some incense. It's really cold, so I've switched on the heater. Just get really comfortable. Okay, my first lesson is don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't go to for advice. I say that because a lot of people have a lot of things to say. People always feel like they are entitled to have an opinion on your actions, your demeanor, just you, to have an opinion on you. And more often than not, it's criticism rather than encouragement. So I really feel like it's important to remember not to take criticism from someone you wouldn't go to for advice, because someone you'd think to go to for advice is obviously someone you trust, someone whose opinion will add value to what it is that you're trying to achieve. So I hope that's helpful, because I wish I had known that from the very beginning. And the second I heard that, I felt like, you know what, this is a very good point to carry with me for as long as I can remember. So I just want to point out really quickly how none of these lessons are in order of priority. They're just lessons that I feel like would be helpful, and I will link lessons where they are connected, but just know and keep in mind that they are not in order of importance or order of priority. So yeah. The second lesson that I want you to be aware of is that you will never know if you don't ask. If you really want to go somewhere and you're scared to ask your parent, the answer is just gonna be no. Like, until you ask, you'll just never know what could have been said. You never know if a person could have been in a really generous mood or anything like that. So in anything you do, even as an adult, if you don't ask, you will not know. And making an assumption of what the other person would say is a little unfair, I feel, because you're not in that person's mind space. You don't have almost justification to back up your argument because you're obviously biased. Just remember that you'll never know if you don't ask. The next lesson I have is that in anything you do or have a choice in making, just remember that not deciding is a decision. If you decide that something is too overwhelming and you choose to just not decide and to forfeit making the choice, then just remember that not deciding is a decision. And if you are okay with standing by that decision, then by all means, but just remember that. Okay, the next lesson I have is that you need to learn to take care of your mental health and to prioritize rest. This means that acknowledging when you are struggling to cope with certain things and making it a very high priority to tackle that circumstance. Give your mind the rest that it needs, to give yourself the rest that you need, because at the end of the day, this is not a lesson, but I just want you to remember that you cannot pour yourself into others if you are empty. So if you think of being a cup full of water or whatever it is, as soon as that cup is empty, you are not able to give anything else. So just always remember that you need to learn to take care of your mental health. And this doesn't necessarily mean that you struggle with mental health, but just to take precautions to ensure that you are on top of that game, because you can prevent a lot of struggle, a lot of pain, a lot of issues that can arise later on in your life. So just remember that as long as you make it a very important thing to you, then things like managing stress, things like coping with disappointment in yourself will be something that you are prepared to deal with rather than forced to deal with. Okay, now here is a very realistic piece of advice. Always, always, always hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Whether it's taking an exam or just stepping outside and the weather is seemingly sunny, just make sure that you hope for the best, but you are prepared to deal with the worst possible situation or circumstance that may arise from whatever it is that you are facing. Failure is always just a first attempt in learning. And I'm not sure if you guys have watched a series called Avatar, Last Airbender, but there's a character in there named Uncle Iroh, and he basically gave me this excerpt that I use when it comes to dealing with failure and disappointment in yourself, that when you have failed at something, use that as an opportunity to start all over, but this time use it with a fresh mind, use it with more wisdom, more knowledge, because at that point you are more wiser to the approach. So when you are dealing with failure, just remember that everyone fails at something at a certain point in their lives. So don't be so hard on yourself. Just remember that it is your first attempt, and that your second attempt you will take something away from that, and just keep trying, because at the end of the day you truly, I know this is cliche, but only fail once you've stopped trying. This next lesson is definitely going to flow really well with what I've just said. When you have made a mistake of most magnitudes, I feel, just remember. Since I said remember, I'm actually just remembering that this is actually a tattoo that Rihanna has on her arm, and it says, never a mistake, always a lesson. And that's literally what I'm trying to say, is that when you have made a mistake from something, in something, analyze what you have done and try to take something away from that. Try to take a lesson from that, whether it's something as seemingly mundane as a math sum to a situation or an encounter that you've had with someone. As soon as you have made a mistake, you will only benefit and grow once you take a lesson away from that. So that's the next lesson I wanted to give you guys. I know this video is a little more serious than what I have done on my channel thus far, but I really feel like these lessons could help someone. And the next lesson that I'm going to bring up is about trauma. And I really want to say that trauma is never your fault. Trauma is not your fault, but healing from that trauma and finding a way to keep yourself going forward is your responsibility. So I feel that in a lot of things that cause trauma, you are not the target of the universe. universe. You know, living with a mindset that tells you that anyone is against you is, I feel, unhealthy. But just remember at the end of the day that taking responsibility for your feelings, whether it is asking for help from anyone you trust, that is your responsibility to take. And it can be difficult, yes, but it starts really, really, really small, because as soon as you've made someone who cares about you aware of anything that you have experienced or are dealing with, that is a step in the right direction. And even more so, acknowledging your trauma and acknowledging what you have suffered from can be very relieving, so to say. So yeah, I just want it to be known. The next lesson we have is everything to do with what we were talking about earlier, which was choice. And I just want you to remember that most of the time there's no such thing as the right choice. You know, there's a whole bunch of subjective variables when it comes to making a decision, and just remember that you're never making a right or wrong choice. And the important thing to always keep in mind is that you either take the chance or lose the opportunity. Just remember that, because opportunities obviously come and go. Just take the chance, because it could slip away. The next lesson I felt like I should share has to do with growth and growing, whether it's personally, whether it's emotionally, whether it's psychologically, just growth. And that is, I want you to think of a plant. You know, when you first plant something, a bean or a flower or a fruit, you water it, you nurture it, you wait, you give it time. You don't plant it and then the next day it's grown up. You know, it's not Jack and the Beanstalk. Basically, it's not a fairy tale. So when it comes to growth, just remember that growth is exponential. It's gonna take a really long time there's a science term for this. I think it's something about resistance and force, but it's gonna take a really long time to first get the momentum built up. And once you have, just remember that growth is exponential. So just remember to be patient with yourself and have patience within yourself, because it can be very frustrating to feel like you're not going anywhere or to feel like you're not moving at a pace that you want to. But remembering that growth is exponential, and once you get to a certain point, it's just going to be growing so beautifully, almost like a snowball. So yeah. This next lesson is more of a practical lesson, but I felt like it was just important to mention, and that is just always keep a snack in your bag, whether it's an apple or a cereal bar. You could get trapped in an elevator, you know, you could get stranded in a really, really, really long line. So just always keep a snack in your bag. And I really just want you to know that, like, it might seem like something silly or something that is kind of an afterthought, but taking care of your health, your general overall health, making sure you're hydrated every single day can go a long way in your daily functioning. Your body is this very incredible tool, and most of the time you can tell when you're dehydrated. So just make sure that you are being good to your body, because it can reward itself in beautiful ways. When you're older and less able to bounce back so easily, it'll really be helpful to know that you took care of your health from an early age. And an apple a day does keep the doctor away. Maybe not for everything, but just making sure that you abide by nourishing information. I mean, information with regards to nutrition. So yeah, just thought I'd put that out there. Yeah. Okay, so we are talking about your personal development as a person, as your own person, on your journey towards your North Star, as in what you were meant to do, what your purpose was on this planet. And with that, I just want to say that you obviously are aware that we're all different. We were made completely differently, yet the same in so many other ways. But you really need to remember that your uniqueness is not a weakness. Whatever you feel makes you different or stand out from anyone in the crowd, or in anything you do, you just need to remember that whatever makes you you, whatever makes you unique, whatever makes you an individual, is definitely not something that you need to feel like is something that is a disadvantage to you, is something that you need to feel like is not something you can use as a strength, because as soon as you take that power and own that power and turn it into something motivating, you have given people, or you've given someone, some form of hope on how to navigate their own life. And you truly never know who you are motivating and who you are supporting when you do small things like embracing things that are unique. And I really feel like someone had told me in high school that I would be aware that being an empath was not a weakness, and that feeling so deeply was not a weakness. I feel that I probably wouldn't have believed them, but it would have been something that was kept in my mind for a very long time, because it is something that I feel like I dealt with as a growing person. So yes. I don't know about you guys, but like my tea is almost done, and like I'm high-key tempted to go get another one because it's just so cold. But anyways, this next lesson is about relations. It's about relationships and the way you relate to other people. And this applies to friendship, it applies to romantic relationships, it just applies to any form of relational dynamic, and that is that the right person will come at the right time. If it is not the right time, then it is not the right person, because that is just how the universe works. It might feel like it genuinely is the right person, but sometimes the person that we think is so right for us is probably the complete opposite, you know? So I just want you to remember that, because it is quite a difficult lesson to grasp. This next lesson is one of those lessons that you're gonna go, oh my gosh, like that's so obvious. But I don't know, telling yourself these things is just helpful. You know, if you're writing these lessons down and you're sitting with a notepad, I want you to just make sure that you write this one down. And that is, when you're going through a really difficult time, you have to go through things to get through them. The only way is through. The only way you can go and come out of a difficult situation is by getting through it, and you will. And a lot of people around me, or rather a lot of things around me, remind me that it is really important to grow through what you go through. And I just feel like you just also need to remember that the only way to get through something, the only way to have experienced something and to come away with something from that experience is by going through it. And it seems so obvious, but you would be so blown away by how remembering that and telling yourself that will really help you. So yeah. The next lesson we have also has to do with relations and relationship, and I feel like it's really important to be aware of how you relate to other people. Sorry, I'm moving back because the incense is like sorry. It's important to be aware of how you relate to other people, and this lesson comes from the bottom of my heart, because I feel like I say it to so many people around me, and that is, just because someone doesn't love you the way you want them to does not mean that they don't love you. If someone does not show you love the way you feel like you need to feel love, it doesn't mean that they don't love you. It just means that their way of showing love is different, and your way of receiving that love is different. And as soon as you reach a compatible level, you'll just see that, like, in doing small things like communicating, you're able to avoid that conflict of feeling like someone is not reciprocating your love, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. And on that, I just feel like it's really important to remember this next lesson, and that is to learn the love language of the people around you. And you need to learn how to give it, and you need to learn how you receive it. So learn your loved one's love languages. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So let's say you and your sister or brother are close, or not close. Actually, it has nothing to do with being close, but the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch, quality time. So I hope I mentioned 5. There are 5 love languages. And the book by Gary Chapman, if I'm not mistaken, he has a singles edition and he has I think a couples edition. Reading a book like that is really useful because people are all different, like we spoke about earlier. So just remembering that people's love languages can differ, and the way people give them and the way people receive them can be completely different to how you give and how you receive. So just make an effort to learn your loved one's love languages, because that can go a very long way in not just improving your relationship, but in dealing with conflict and dealing with certain bottlenecks that arise because of relationships. So yeah. This lesson that I'm about to share is kind of a lesson that almost everyone in my family knows, and I think it comes from my grandfather, but I'm honestly not sure. It's just something I always grew up hearing, and something that I really feel like a lot of people know this, not just because it was a Hannah Montana lyric once, but because it just applies to so much of the outcome of where you want to be, and that is, life is what you make it. Life is what you make it basically means that at the end of the day, if you are not happy with where you are the only one who can change that situation, that circumstance, and you are the only person who can make things happen in your life. And most of the time you might be like, oh no, it's luck, but just remember that luck is preparation meets opportunity. And I try to really make sure that people around me know that, because a lot of the time we're just miserable in where we are, but you are the author of this story. You are the author of your own life. And you know, like a quote once said, feel free to give them a plot twist at any point. So yeah. Another lesson about people. Everyone who crosses your path in life definitely is there to teach you something, whether it's something good or something bad, or just there to like show you so much love. Everyone who crosses your path is always there and in your life to teach you something. So just remember that. Just remember that when you say you wish you never met someone, or when you really feel pain caused by someone else, because most of the time it is not something that could have been avoided in your life. It is what was meant to happen. As harsh and horrid as that might sound to a bunch of circumstances, just remember that you will come out with something, and that is something that you need to keep your head high remembering. You are definitely the sole creator of your reality at the end of the day. This next lesson has to do with money. Money. Okay, money. A lot of people have a lot of things to say about money, and all I'm gonna say is that money is not everything until you don't have it. So just make sure to make it a point to save where you can, and in saving, just make sure that you save 10% of everything you receive. So if you get $100, put 10% of that away. Put 10% of that away. Put 10 Rand away. If you receive 10 Rand, put 1 Rand away. And if you make it a lesson and a practice to just always save 10% of everything you receive, you'll find yourself developing a lot more wiser habits when it comes to your financial wellness, which is obviously a topic that I really will get into later on in my channel, but just remember that. Okay, my tea is done, but our incense is still burning. This next lesson is to invest in your appearance. And I know that sounds very superficial and very, I don't know, it just doesn't sound like something entirely valuable, but from almost an early age, our mom just always drilled in us the importance of deportment. And if you don't know what deportment is, just go and Google it right now. But basically, you just need to remember that first impressions always last, and it's very, very, very hard to change someone's first impression of you. So investing in your appearance, when you look well put together, people are more likely to take you more seriously. And study I once read said that when your eyebrows are filled in, for some reason people take you more seriously. And no, that is not the reason I'm wearing makeup today. I just felt like feeling beautiful. But yeah, just make it a point to invest in your appearance, invest in the clothing you wear, and that doesn't mean splurge and spend all your money on how you look. Obviously, we live in a world where we're fortunate enough to have YouTube and to look for life hacks where you don't need to spend a large amount of money on yourself. You can do things like upcycling your clothing, so taking old clothing and turning it into something nicer. But everything from, you know, your nails to your shoes, you know, just make sure that your appearance at the end of the day is something that you are happy to stand by, because when you look good, you feel good, and when you feel good, you're able to do better, you know. So just make sure that you are happy with what people are seeing, because that impacts a lot, like a lot. We just live in a world where like a first glance just means so much, which is a bit unfortunate, but that's a lesson I felt like I just needed to include. My 21st and final lesson is everything to do with what has brought us to this point. And if you read the quote that I put in the beginning of my video, you will fully understand what I mean by this. And the lesson is that words are powerful. You know, you need to find a way to express yourself and to just find a way to put what goes on internally into not tangible, but into actual words. You know, take feelings for example. Make yourself a feelings chart where as soon as you feel specific types of way, you're able to identify what feeling that is, because that goes a long way in learning who you are as a person. So, you know, write in your journal, create vision boards and mood boards, and create quote walls if you need to write quotes on the wall. I know that in my old apartment I used to have like a whole bunch of little just sayings around it, just to remember them and to say them to myself and to keep it buried in my mind, because as soon as you start doing that, you are revising your inner voice. And if you want me to do a video on that, just let me know. But your inner voice is basically the voices that you tell yourself at the end of the day, the voices that are internal to your dialogue. And these things are either things that were repeated to you as a child or things that you find yourself just mindlessly thinking about. These things can be negative, these things can be positive, but it's important to feel like you are motivating yourself and you are sustaining your own motivation, if that makes sense. But yeah, and when it comes to words, you know, these are things that help you set your goals, and setting goals is very important. You know, when I was in school, we used to always do goal setting in Allo every single year, and it felt like the most mundane thing ever. But setting goals is so important, and that's where I feel like words can be so powerful, because not only are you speaking things into existence, you are working towards something and feeling like you're getting somewhere, if that makes sense. Just also let me know if you guys want a video on how to set goals, because it might be something that seems like is really easy to do, but it does take time. It takes knowing yourself, it takes introspection, it takes a lot. But just remember, don't stop reaching for the stars. I will always believe that you will get to where you want to go. And yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to what I had to say with regards to the 21 lessons that I feel are really important and have gained some importance in my life. And yeah, I might do more videos like this, but yeah, 21 lessons, that is the end of it. So yeah, bye.